All right, Don,
All right.
great to be with you.
Great to be here.
We got to talk a little bit last week, and I'm really excited to pick your brain. Um, for those who don't know you, you are with the Greater Lansing
Greater
Relay.
Lansing Relay for Life.
Awesome. And securing sponsorships, partnerships has been a huge part of your team. You've had a great deal of success there.
hmm
Uh, so during our session, you and I will moderate some of that conversation. But to kick things off, we've got just a few questions for you that might
Sure.
get some brain activity going for our participants. One of the first things is when we look at sponsorship, partnership, so many people struggle with knowing who to ask,
hmm
how to ask, when to ask. How do you make those decisions?
Well, first off, I like to come up with a who, and the who is always what businesses do I have relationships with already? I mean, I'm a business owner, so I have business to business contacts. So I reach out to them, and I try and do two things. I try and find businesses that would receive value from any kind of promotional opportunities derived from the relay sponsorships. So they're businesses that they're typically business to consumer type businesses, car dealerships, oil changes, restaurants, things like that. So their customer base is consumers more than they are other businesses. Now, that's not to say other businesses that are business to business can't be great sponsors. Oftentimes, they have designated budget for community contributions. So those are important ones to get. But what I start with is businesses that have some sort of direct relationship to consumers within the market that our relay represents. Okay. Classic example, I was at the dentist this morning, and while I was at the dentist and we were kind of chatting up about all the business that I've brought him. I mean, I went to him as a cold customer. My wife goes there now. My daughters go there now. My granddaughters go there now. One of the employees in my offices go there now. So I've basically brought him business. Mm-hmm. So I have absolutely no qualms about saying, Dr. Peters, pony up, buddy. And I basically tell him, I says, look, is this something you're interested in? Okay, well, this relay is in your footprint. It's in your geographic footprint. All your customers come from within this footprint. They will all see your sign. So not only will your current customers be reestablished as your commitment to the community, but it also is a way to have your name be made available to people that may be looking for things. And if, a relayer is suddenly finding themselves, they need a dentist, looking at a dentist that's already submitting or sponsoring the event that you're a part of, there's a good rapport there. So that's a great place to start. As far as the when, businesses oftentimes are setting their budgets for the next year around November and December. So oftentimes their designated budget for community sponsorships are set at the end of the fourth quarter on a fiscal year. So depending upon whether they're a calendar or fiscal, trying to get them before they've established their budget for the next year is a great time to get them to commit to being a sponsor. So even if you don't get their dollars, if you can get them to sign the form and say, look, I'll commit the dollars by say March 31st or some set date, get them to commit early and get them to think about it at a time when they're setting their budgets for the next year. That's the best time to get sponsorships. Oftentimes, if you go in, say in June, I'm trying to get a sponsorship, our relays in August, you talk to a business, they're like, well, I'd really like to, but I've already donated to this and this and this and this, and I can't really afford to do another one. So trying to get them at a time they're thinking about their budget, that's the best time, in my opinion, to actually secure, especially the more sizable sponsorships. And plus, it gets them thinking in terms of, if you come back year after year at that same time frame, they're already, they've got the budget from the previous year. They've already had it pigeonholed. It's very easy for them to just check it off and say, do it again for next year. And it's also a great time to get them to try and expand and extend their or increase their sponsorship. So that's when I like to do it, especially the more significant sponsorships. So that's kind of what we do as a trick. But the real key is getting people on your team to talk to businesses they already have relationships with as customers. Because again, that's that's the best time to ask. It's not, so I'm not cold calling into a business that I have no existing relationship with. I'm going to my dentist. I'm going to the bowling alley where I bowl. I'm going to the place where I buy my pizzas. I'm going to the place where I get my oil change. And even if you can't get them to sponsor, get them to make a donation, maybe come up with an item for like an auction. So again, if they don't sponsor, give them other opportunities to contribute, because once they're in, you can always go back to them and try and get them to do other things. The key is to get them in your pipeline and to get them doing something, even something as simple as, can you just make a donation? Can I put up a can to collect coins on your counter? Things like that, whatever you can do. And you can always expand later once you've got them as a once you establish the relationship. It's much easier to go back and say, you've been a loyal contributor for the last 4 years. Are you going to do it again this year? More often than not, it's a small part of the conversation that I have in talking with these people and getting them to commit and sign the form.
So some of the big things that I heard there is, these aren't strangers that you're asking.
No,
they're people. There are people that have probably seen you wear a Relay for Life t-shirt and heard you talk about how important Relay for Life is to you at other times. And that fourth quarter is really a key time. Now, that's not to say that people should avoid asking other times of the year, but that really, not only does it help them when they're setting their budgets for the next year, but I've also found that there are some businesses that have a little slushy money at the end of the year, and their accountants might be telling them, hey, it wouldn't hurt for you to make a tax-deductible donation before the end of the year.
No, make a tax-deductible advertising buy.
That's right. Yeah.
Because donations you can't do, but they will pay for advertising. So every sponsorship is an advertising buy. It comes off the bottom line, off of their taxable earnings. So as a business owner, it's all about, not that we're trying to, push, any kind of fraudulent tax things, but as a business owner, I have always donated, I've always generated advertising spend by buying sponsorships with charitable organizations.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah. And again, if you hit them at a time where they don't have the budget, when can I come back and talk to you for next year?
Sure.
All right, build your pipeline. You should always be building your pipeline. As a team member, as a relayer trying to secure sponsorships, I'm essentially a salesperson for Relay. And I'm going into these companies, these organizations, I'm trying to sell the opportunity for them to build goodwill within the community of where their customers all live. Okay, and it's all about thinking about in terms of as a transaction. If I'm a salesperson, I'm trying to build a pipeline. I work my pipeline all the time to try and make a sale. And that's the way we look at it. Okay. And everybody on my team that gets sponsorships, they do it the same exact way. They're starting with the businesses that they have relationships with as consumers, and they talk to the organizations that they have some sort of relationship with in other aspects. Maybe they work for them. Maybe they maybe their company has a relationship with their company and they're the person that's the contact with this other company. Again, start off with the relationships you already have. And the reality of it is, within our footprint, probably just about every business in your footprint has a relationship with somebody in your Relay group. And what we try and do is we try and identify the people that have the connection and then redirect them at those organizations. And it's anything from sponsorship, donations, auction items, put together a team. They're all things that you can do. And it's all part of the same conversation. And hopefully they'll do something.
And it's always big to know, from my history in sales, no is very rarely a personal attack. It's I really can't do it right now. Or you haven't given me enough reason why this is something I should do.
Right.
And along those lines, it's not a no for eternity, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's a no for now. Sometimes it's I'm in a personal situation where we're trying to set aside some money because we need to fix our HVAC units, right? Sure. Or it's it just doesn't move me right now because cancer hasn't been something that has impacted me, my staff, all of that right now.
Right.
But as you continue to foster those relationships and be real people, be real, kind and caring people with these potential partners, cancer sadly is going to impact them at some point.
Oh, sure.
And you then become their point of contact for, hey, I know that we've talked a lot about you doing Relay for Life. Can you answer some questions for me? And now you become a resource for them.
Right. And the sponsorship I did secure today was one that didn't do it last year.
Okay.
And the reason they didn't do it last year is they were a business that was shut down for several months. And, you know, I talked to them pre-pandemic, they committed pre-pandemic, but then the pandemic hit, the shutdown hit, and they never came through. I knew they were shut down. I didn't go back to them and hound them for their money. I knew that they were in a dire straits. I kind of left them sit. I figured, you know what, I'll come back to them when they're back in business. And the reality of it is that happened today. And I went in there and it was one of the easiest sells I've ever had, because it really was just a matter of, I brought it up, you know, and he immediately said, yep, sure, send the form over, we'll do it. You know, I like doing things like this.
Awesome. That's a fantastic segue into my next question. Speaking of the pandemic, pre-pandemic sponsorship is one thing. During the pandemic, which we're still not out of, is there anything besides what you talked about, being aware of who has and has not been shut down? But is there anything different that you've done with your approach to securing sponsors?
Well, I think you have to take into consideration the way that business that you're talking to has been able to operate during the pandemic. How hard have they been hit? It's probably going to be difficult to get sponsorships from gyms.
Yeah,
they've been hit hard. Restaurants and bars, it's tricky. It depends. Some of them have done a bang up business in carryout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pizza joints. I mean, you probably can talk to just about every pizza joint, especially one that does a huge takeout, and you could come up with some sort of a sponsorship, or maybe you do something like, you know, we're going to do you know, $5 off of every pizza sale over $20 on this day, on this, you know, within this month is going to go towards Relay. And then what you do is you come up with a program or a campaign, you sponsor it, you promote it through your Facebook page, you provide them something, and then they provide you something in return. Again, they're all different. I think you have to be open to all those different situations. But, you know, the big thing is, I think, is just being mindful of what they've had to do in order to stay solvent during an unprecedented time in our history. Some businesses have done great. Some businesses have just really struggled or have gone out of business. So you need to be mindful of that. And like the point you made earlier, you know, if somebody says no, it's not because they don't like what you're doing, or they don't believe in your cause. They may not have the cash flow. They're trying to make payroll. They're trying to pay their supply chain, whatever. They can't afford the extra monies for things like this. And it could be just a temporary situation. Or maybe they're pushing their money through something else. Maybe they're donating it through Strides, or maybe they donate to ACS directly, or maybe they donate to a leukemia fund, or, you know, whatever. They may have some personal cause that they push their money towards, and that's okay. I mean, the reality of it is, I know a lot of business owners. Virtually everyone I know donates money to a variety of causes. Okay, so if they're not donating to your cause, it's not because they're cheap or they're miserly or they just, you know, are cold-hearted. They just may have their monies going elsewhere, and that's okay too. Right. And that's, you know, you have to be tolerant of that. You can't come down on them if they don't want to donate to your cause. Just say, thank you very much. Maybe you'll consider us next year. Can I come back another time where you might be thinking about budgets and designating monies? Just, again, work your pipeline, build it up. If you don't get it this year, see if you can set the stage for doing it next year.
Awesome.
But again, pandemic, it's just be mindful of what they're going through in their own personal situations.
Cool. Well, then I've got one more question for you.
Sure.
And you've already talked about these relationships. And so for the most part, no two asks are exactly the same, right? It's
No.
customized for each individual. Having said that, are there any particular words, phrases, language that you tend to use more often than not?
Well, I try and point out that this is an advertising buy. And what are they, they're making a donation. It's going to a great cause, but they're going to get a certain amount of coverage, of brand awareness associated with the sponsorship. So I try and speak to them from those terms. Here's the value you're going to get. Here's how your advertising spend is going to get you this recognition, this goodwill. Speak in those terms. That's what I tend to do. And again, as relayers of teams, we have a lot of different options. We've had things like, sponsorships go on the back of t-shirts. Maybe that's not a case this year, but it has done historically. We've had signage. We've had pushing things on our relay Facebook pages. One of the things we did with our relay last year, we weren't able to do an in-person relay. We did a video relay. We actually produced a 40-minute video, which we broadcast at our site with the people that attended were sitting in their cars. It was like drive-in style.
Gotcha.
And we gave our top 3 sponsors the opportunity to put together a 5-minute video that was included in our montage. And our theme last year was why we relay. So it actually was kind of apropos with the situation last year, because despite all the things that happened, we still relayed. Mm-hmm. And we had some amazing videos from our sponsors talking about why they as organizations believe in relay, believe in the cause, and sponsor everything from providing dollars to providing teams. And that was a great feature. And you can also get your sponsors to put those things together, and you can run those through your Facebook page. You can push them up to YouTube and pass the links around. You can make those available to your sponsors to show for their own cause, their own opportunities to show videos, things. So it's, think out of the box. Don't be afraid to try something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where we go with it.
Awesome.
And again, even though we're hopefully going to be in person in the fall, we're still thinking in terms of, okay, if we can't, we have this in our back pocket. And right. Even if we're in person, we may do a hybrid version of this, because our video was so successful as far as the way it looked and felt. It may be something we still produce and just show it at the event.
Yeah. And we do know across the state, across the state, we've got a number of relays happening before July 1st that are guaranteed to not be a traditional relay feel. Even after July 1st, like you said, we're not positive what that's going to look like, but I love that you are considering how that, and those are real conversations that you can have with potential partners, is to say, hey, we would love nothing more than to have our traditional event with hundreds, thousands of people walking past, signs and banners, you name it. But we're being real, right? And so we want to make sure that we give you the benefit that you're looking for with this. And if you engage in that conversation, they might tell you exactly what it is that's going to do it for them. And we may be able to deliver that, we may not be, but starting that conversation, knowing what moves the needle for them.
Right.
People are a lot more willing to tell you the answers if you ask the right questions than we often think.
Right. And don't be afraid to think of some sort of an opportunity that will benefit these businesses. I mean, I have a daughter that is also on our leadership team. And one of the things that she's been doing throughout the pandemic is organizing Friday night dinners in her neighborhood and selecting a food truck a week to come into their neighborhood. All the dinners, all the meals are pre-bought. And, these trucks show up and they've sold $3,000 or $4,000 worth of meals.
Wow,
on a given night.
Awesome.
Now, none of that is going to relay at the moment, but what she has done is built up a relationship with all these food trucks. So now they're going to be absolutely compliant for the consideration of some sort of a program that now that they're actually starting to do more business, they're not just trying to stay afloat. I guarantee you, we're going to pick up several sponsorship opportunities where they're able to sponsor some sort of a campaign or program where we will then derive funds from that, from their sales, to go to our relay, because we've established that relationship, because we've taken the steps to figure out ways to do things for them to help them when they're having a hard time. And then in turns, the hope is, again, pay it forward, you know.
Right.
The hope is that they'll then be more compliant when it comes time to ask them for something from them. But again, you can't, I don't think it's right to just go and demand things from businesses without some sort of consideration to how you can help them as well, or how you can partner with them to do things that are mutually beneficial to both. And that's what I like to think about. Whenever we do a program with a business, it's always, what's the win-win for both?
Awesome.
You know, as a business owner, I like working with vendors where both of us make money.
Sure. Yeah.
And I tell our team, I tell everybody on our team that this is a business transaction. When you're talking to a sponsor, you're talking to a business partner, you're talking to them exactly the way you would talk if you were in a vendor supplier arrangement. So, and it works. And, you know, I have a team member that last year, the year before, he had $0 in sponsorships. Last year, I think he hit $2,500. He's trying to hit 5,000 this year.
Nice.
You know,
Nice.
and it's just,
I hope he gets there. Well, Don, thank you for your time. This is these responses that are proven techniques that you've used. I hope are a great way to kick off our conversation. And let's hear more from other people throughout the state. Let's hear what's working for other people, where other people are stuck, and let's help solve some of these questions together.
Sure.
Thank you, Don, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
All right. Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.